Alright guys, here is the regulator I was talking about in my previous video. Here we have a high pressure air tank and a low pressure air tank. I have a slight leak at this connection point, so I'm going to quick fill this up before I get somewhat inaccurate results. So here we are at, just shy of 45, sorry, it's a little shaky there, 45 psi in the high pressure tank. And then on this low pressure tank here, go ahead and show you. I am down to just around 20. Let me pull it out just a little. Actually, it's closer to 19. So I mean, I want to get this down to 15 psi, so I'm gonna tweak it a little more. I know how to do what I'm gonna do to fix it, but of course I'm not there yet. All right, so to quick demonstrate how this is also working, I want to show you when I release the air out of the regulated lower pressure tank. You can hear it go from low pressure, or high pressure to low pressure, back to high pressure, and then to low pressure as it empties out all of the air. So, go ahead and do this here. It's more an audible thing here, but, sorry, this is... So you can kind of hear there how it's kind of a two-stage, and that's how this works. I'll quick pop this off here for you, and in a further part of this video I'm going to go into detail of kind of an explanation of how this works, but as you can see there's this little spacer, a spring, and a screw which adjusts the spring pressure, and in here there's a little piston, which I'll go ahead and fill up real quick. You can see the piston pop out just a bit. Now it's popped out, unlike earlier. So the spring, when it builds up pressure to the pressure I need here, it's enough to overcome the spring force. Okay, so this next set of pictures will kind of give you an idea of how the piston works to regulate the air pressure. It's labeled. The red is the high pressure, the blue is the low pressure. Notice the hole right below the red arrow, which is the inlet. The hole where the blue arrow is shown in this picture more clearly. The following picture will show the piston pushed backwards, which is when the air pressure is just enough to overcome the spring pressure. It will push it backwards or to the right, where the inlet hole is then blocked off between two O-rings, and there will be a protrusion at the end, which is what you saw at the beginning of the video. And that protrusion is what pushes against the spring, and then once the air pressure can no longer hold it in that position, the spring will push it back to the left until more air pressure is filled to move it back to the right. In this next following picture, you can see kind of the whole setup of how the spring acts on the piston. So if you kind of understand what's happening is the lower pressure air pushes against the piston, which then pushes against the spring and closes it off against the high pressure. And once there's not enough pressure to hold the piston against the spring overcomes the force and opens it back up to fill it back up with air, giving you a regulated air source. Alright, so there you have it. Hopefully that previous explanation kind of sums up how this whole thing works. Just trying to explain here, the issue I have is really just friction with the strength spring. So if you know anything about how the force required to push the spring is kind of dependent on the area of the piston head, that's all I'm going to do. So I'm just going to make that a little bigger so I can overcome the friction and get around 15 psi, which is what I was wanting. I mean, I could do it without changing that, but I don't have access to a lathe or anything that I could reduce the diameter of the piston for less friction against the three O-rings you saw in the pictures, the one here, here, and then here. So, I mean, also if I had a CAD program, I could also use Shapeways to make me the part, but I don't exactly have that. If any of you guys do, definitely let me know, and I'd love to talk with you. But other than that, there's my whole setup. It's looking pretty good so far, so tell me what you think, and I'll talk to you guys later.